organizations need to change and innovate in order to survive long-term? Thank you. In order to survive long-term. And while nothing is formulaic, what would you say are the 3 things an organization must do to find that innovation so that your evolution is transformational as opposed to incremental? And then part B to that is, that's great for management, but how do you bring the rest of the organization along, who in my experience typically goes kicking and screaming when change is at foot?
I'm going to piggyback on a theme that Steve had earlier, and that is you have to have goals. I think people, especially in organizations, we kind of get lost when we just have these lofty vision statements or this transformation program, and people really kind of don't understand what's it connected to and why we're doing it. If you can have a part of your organization that isn't bogged down in the day-to-day grind, that's looking out further, looking at your competition in the future and trying to figure out where we need to be tomorrow. I heard someone say leadership is really understanding where the organization needs to be in the future and then getting it there. So first and foremost, you need to have a vision, a real vision, not just some lofty vision that people don't really know how we're attached to it, but where we're really going to go. And then kind of what I talked about earlier, aligning everyone's incentives so that there is a sense of urgency that if we don't get there, we may not exist as an organization. If we don't get there, our strategic dominance in the world as a military, it's not guaranteed. So once you've looked out to the future, you looked at and done an assessment, an honest assessment of what the future could look like, then you bring your team together and say, if we don't make this move, if we don't innovate in this specific direction, there's no guarantee that any of us here will have a job in 5 years. I think that gets everyone aligned around incentives, that gets everyone on the same sheet of music, and then we can have a vision statement that's actually meaningful versus something that most people in the organization can't recite.
Yeah, I'd like to build off of that and just, highlight the importance of process. So you have to look on the outside, and you have to look on the outside with humility, Very hard for the colonel to say near peers. Coming from the U.S. military, but that's the reality of where their skills and technologies are at. And then you need that process to bring the outside in and to protect that, because the organization is going to have a reflexive response to discount it. Oh no, that's not a problem. Oh no, that's not an issue. And so you really need to create a forum where you're forcing that discussion, you're forcing an honest assessment and discussion of that, and then that leads to very different thinking and responses.
And last, I think personally, a culture of ownership, right? So your job, your destiny is in your hands, right? You determine the best for it. If there is an environment that helps you to seek out the options, that makes your job or your responsibilities or your goals, essentially controllable in your hands, innovation comes sooner, right? It is not a mandate. It is out of your own interest. If that's the environment you are in, it speeds up innovation.